Come on.
It says we're live.
It does? It says scheduled on my thing. Okay, well, are we live, Dargan? It's live. It's live. I was just waiting. My thing's not. Who knows if anyone's hearing this? Give us comments if you're hearing it. Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register, Tyler Tachman of the Des Moines Register. Tyler, you missed a good game, but you were fully engaged in this. And I just want to tell people, Tyler is up at 1 a.m. back home in North Carolina. He is very devoted to this Hawkeye team. And Tyler, I want to know your thoughts at halftime because I didn't get to talk to you. Hawks down 14-7. What are you thinking at that time?
Well, first I'll say it wasn't my decision not to go to the game, but I guess we don't need to go any further than that. But at halftime, I was jumping off the ship because it just things were not headed the right direction at all. And I mean, the way that the game went was very fitting into how the first three games of Iowa's season went, in that there was one half that was not headed in the right direction at all, and another half where Iowa showed how good it could be. And that's kind of what happened on Saturday when it came to the first half being really slow, and the secondary kind of taking some hits. And then, I mean, the potential with Iowa is like clearly there. Like when they're hitting on all cylinders, like they can be a really good team. So halftime it did not seem like it was going in the right direction at all.
All right, we've already got a 3-word headline submission from Kennington Smith in the chat. So we'll read that a little bit later. He's engaged in this Hawkeye team. So yeah, it was. We had a few of us had a discussion at halftime, and I mean, I basically said, like, this season's either going to go one way or another in these 30 minutes. Like, I did not think this game was over. I've seen too many Iowa games, but it also felt like it was tipping the other way, like you said. That second quarter, Tyler, was about as bad as you could have had for the Hawkeyes. Cade McNamara passing in the second quarter. I looked this up. I don't think I put it in any stories, but let's talk about it. 4 for 8 for 2 yards in the second quarter passing. Meanwhile, Minnesota raced up and down the field. Max Brosmer was 7 of 7 for 69 yards on one drive. Then they go down and score another touchdown on kind of a very physical play to get into the end zone with 21 seconds left before halftime. And suddenly it's 14-7. And it's kind of like last year for a minute. You're just feeling like, okay, well, this offense with a passing game like this, like 14-7 feels like 28-7. But Tyler, this is a veteran team. And this is a group that responded in the right way, the way you would want to see them respond. And I feel like, I don't know, could it be the opposite of what happened in the Iowa State game, for example? Like Iowa State came out of that locker room a different team, and they dominated the second half against Iowa. Was this kind of a reverse almost of that, where, Minnesota goes to halftime feeling pretty good here, and then second half was just like, whoa, like suddenly Minnesota can't move the ball, and Iowa's zipping down the field. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it helps when you have someone like Kaleb Johnson on your side. And, like, I think it's important to point out that, like, what he has done the first 4 games of the season is not normal. Like just, I guess, if you can take some time to appreciate what he's doing, because, this doesn't come around often. There's Iowa Sports Information sends us a bunch of stats, like, after the game, and he was the first Iowa running back to score 2 or more touchdowns in each of the first 4 games of the season since 1997. So, like, what Kaleb Johnson is doing is just, his video game like numbers, otherworldly, and he makes it look really easy. Like some of the touchdown, 3 touchdowns against Minnesota, and the way that it looks almost like, varsity playing against JV when he's running, because he just makes everyone kind of look like they're running in quicksand sometimes. So I think it's the way that he's been playing. It's just important to just to appreciate what he's been doing and kind of just take advantage of watching it, because if he keeps on this pace, he'll be in the NFL playing on Sunday soon. And
next year, maybe.
Yeah. And I mean, the passing game is clearly still needs work. Like there's still really no downfield threat, and that's an issue. But I think that's what makes like what Kaleb Johnson is doing even more impressive, because everyone knows what's coming. Like everyone knows that the ball is going to be going to Kaleb Johnson, and he's still able to make him pay. So.
Yeah, Kaleb Johnson, 21 carries, 206 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's 9.8 per carry. And he basically got a lot of the fourth quarter off. He was cramping. I know there was a lot of speculation about a hamstring. He just had cramps, I was told by a very good source. And Jazz Patterson, hey, 18 carries for 66 hard-earned yards. But Jazz was great, Tyler. But there's just a difference with KJ2 as he's called. Kaleb Johnson. I mean, he does more with his carries than anyone else. And that was evidenced so many times today. And to me, I think twice really jumped out to me. So the first touchdown, remember he had the 24-yard run around and it got called back. He stepped out. But that play was like dead to rights in the backfield. And he took like a 3-yard loss into a almost touchdown. I mean, it was a touchdown on the field and then reverse back to the 1. Iowa, by the way, 0 for everything in reviews today. That was a throwback to the Cooper DeJean situation. And the players noticed that, by the way. Jay Higgins had a really funny quote about that. He was like, we got really irritated after they overturned Addison's catch, which was the right call. But he was like, we're not letting this happen again, and they took care of business. But anyway, and then the second run was his 40-yard touchdown run. It was like he kind of got bottled up the line of scrimmage and then just boom out the back of the hole for a 40-yard touchdown. I mean, he is really amazing. And even Kirk Ferentz said after the game, he does not remember a back. And he's coached a Doak Walker Award winner in 2008 when Sean Green. He doesn't remember a back having a 4-game stretch like this, Tyler.
And credit to the O-line too Minnesota it's kind of similar to Iowa in the fact that they're known as a physical team, able to impose their will in the trenches. And credit to the offensive line of these last 4 games, being able to open up holes for Kaleb Johnson. And he's very quick to credit them. But I think this is closer to the offensive line that you would want to see for Iowa. This is kind of a rebuild for George Barnett when he came in and took the job of taking a group that just basically having to build it from the ground up. And it feels, because of kind of the veteran leadership and the way they've been playing through this 4 games, if they can continue to build on it, this feels like an offensive line that, can carry its weight. And we also saw Brendan Sullivan in the red zone again on Saturday. And I continue to be very pleased with the fact that Iowa is willing to do that. He had a rushing touchdown. It just adds another wrinkle. It seems, it's worked a lot since Iowa started doing it against Troy. So
4 for 4 on touchdowns.
Yeah.
28 points and 4 trips inside the 10 since Sullivan took over.
Yeah. And I think obviously Kaleb Johnson's kind of head and shoulders above everyone else running the ball. But I think the fact that Jazz Patterson is able to do what he did is also a credit to the O-line. It's not just, that I think that just kind of speaks to the way the O-line is playing in general, especially in the rushing attack. So it was good to see him out there because it sounded like Liddell Betts said that he was dealing with an injury, Jazz Patterson, that is leading up to the season. And so he was kind of hampered by that, but he had the touchdown run against Troy. And it seems like getting him going, it's a nice change of pace because he's smaller, but he just runs and with some relentless tenacity. So that running back group, there was a lot of optimism going into the season about him, but it might have through 4 games exceeded that expectation, and in a large part due to Kaleb Johnson.
Great stuff there, Tyler. And I know you're writing a little bit more on Kaleb. Interesting stat here from Sked, and I want Sked in the comments. I think that's Sked. Is Iowa has 50 points in the third quarter this season through 4 games. Iowa had 36 points in the third quarter last year, and 17 of them came against Western Michigan. Great stat. I assume that's correct. I have not fact-checked that. But Iowa's third quarters this year have been pretty good, except for the Iowa State game. I mean, they did score, I guess, in that one. But deferring on the coin toss, they're 3 for 3 on deferring, and the only game they didn't win the toss was the Iowa State game. So they're 3-0 when they win the coin toss and defer. I like the deferring, and Jay Higgins even said that. And to accentuate that point, great comment, Skad, was what they talked about at halftime, Tyler, was, let's take the ball and go score. Like, enough is enough. And what they did was simplify the offense a little bit. They just said, let's get down to our bread and butter plays. Let's change a few protections. And then on defense, Kirk said they didn't make many adjustments, but they definitely blitzed more. And I asked Nick Jackson that, and he said, yeah, we blitzed more. And they definitely changed the trajectory of Minnesota's passing game in the second half. There just wasn't open receivers in the second half where there were in the first. We should mention Deshaun Lee did get the start at corner, by the way, over TJ Hall. So anyway, point being, this team has shown a pretty nice pulse out of the second half locker room, including last week against Troy, including against Illinois State. They have had some, outside of the Iowa State game, some momentum later in the games where in the past it's always just felt like you're holding on for dear life in the second half. And it's just a nice welcome change. They've established some offense. I think they're wearing teams down too, Tyler. Mason Richmond talked about that after the game.
Yes, I feel like there still needs to be a level of consistency with Iowa, because we've seen this through 4 games where there's some really tremendous highs and some really low lows, and you want to continue to bridge that. But the fact that you can go on the road and beat Minnesota pretty decisively, even with those kind of ups and downs, I think is an encouraging sign of what Iowa could accomplish if it is able to put together a full game. First half, like you said, so Deshaun Lee gets the start over TJ Hall, and there was some kind of cracks in the secondary in that first half. Brosmer throws for 2 touchdowns. It feels like if something's going to beat Iowa's defense right now, it's through the air. And it seemed like Minnesota was taking advantage of that. But then the second half, the secondary looked a lot, it looked more sure. And then Jay Higgins had the pick in the first half, Quinn Schulte in the second half. I think the second half was like, it looked like the team that many people envisioned and hoped this Iowa team to be this season, like maybe before the season started, of a really good defense, a team with an offensive line that is veteran and can hold their weight, and then a really good run game. I think you still want the passing game to come along, but it looked much closer to the team that people hoped for. And the problem is, if you come out like you did in the first half against Minnesota, if you do that against Ohio State, it might be too late, to mount a comeback in the second half. So that's where, if Iowa wants to even be competitive in a game like that, they gotta continue to stretch out these, like when they're playing well, and limit those when they kind of have these lulls. But there's obviously the flashes are there, the potential is there, it's in front of them. They continue to string those stretches of good football together.
Yeah, McNamara was only threw 6 passes in the second half, but he did complete 4 of them for 46 yards. Obviously, I actually asked Cade about this. You can check it out on the video. Like, the very first play of the second half was massive. It was just like like I said, they went to the staple plays. Bootleg pass to the tight end, and Ostrenga takes it for 20 yards. And then the very next play, Kaleb Johnson runs 17. Then there's a late hit. And then I thought maybe the biggest play of the game, Tyler, was after they overturned the Ostrenga catch. It's 3rd and 10 at the 15. And I hope we get a chance to ask Tim Lester about this on Tuesday. I don't know if you never know how many questions you're going to get, but 3rd and 10 from the 15. What a play there on the draw to Kaleb Johnson. That goes to the end zone with Cade McNamara as a lead blocker almost. It's kind of crazy how that play worked out. And all of a sudden it's tied, and then the whole stadium's different. I mean, it was pretty loud when it was 3rd and 10 at the 15. It was like, they're probably going to hold Iowa to a field goal here. All that work, and you're still down. You still need a touchdown to go ahead, and boom, 14-14. And then you get a stop, go right back down the field, 21-14. And that was kind of the story of the game.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this being a must-win for Iowa just because you couldn't go in the bye week 2-2. Basically all their goals would have been off the table at that point. But I think it makes you feel better about all those kind of coin flip games the rest of the season when you look at Wisconsin and Nebraska and you go to Maryland and you go to Michigan State. If Iowa would have lost to Minnesota, you don't feel really confident going into all those types of games, and you could easily see things kind of taking a nosedive. The one head and shoulders above everything else is the Ohio State game in terms of games that are just going to be really difficult to win, but everything else is manageable. And I think that, being able to get out of, seeing the result against Minnesota and the fact that Iowa didn't play what could be their, best and still was able to come out with a pretty decisive win. I think it makes you feel better about where the rest of the season could go and the fact that potentially, their goals of making the college football playoff are not, totally dashed at this point, because the Iowa State game kind of put them behind the 8 ball. Their backs are up against the wall, but there's definitely still some life left.
Yeah, and even I would say even Kirk Ferentz acknowledged that this was a massive must-win game. He didn't use the words must-win, but he said he basically told the team on Wednesday, like, hey, you can either be 3-1 going into the bye week and 1-0 in Big Ten play, and that's an important thing to note. Iowa is 1-0 in Big Ten play and got the win on the road versus 2-2, 0-1, facing Ohio State next, 2 long weeks in the bye week. Our lives would have been a lot different these next 2 weeks, Tyler, had Iowa lost this game. And now there is some, I think, hope for this season. And Cade McNamara was the first to say it. The passing game needs work. Kirk Ferentz says, yeah, I'd love to be more balanced. But right now, they're doing a good job leaning on the run game. And obviously the numbers in the first half weren't good passing the ball. But Cade got victimized with some drops. I thought Weechin should have had that long pass at the end of the first half. I didn't think he made a good enough effort for the ball. Terrell Washington, total drop. Reese Vanderzee had a ball he probably should have caught for, I think it was so long ago now. I think it should have been a first down. It was like the first drive, right? First or second drive. And Cade also missed a few throws, and they got to stop throwing passes for 0 yards. So, like completions for 0 yards. I mean, like literally, they'll throw a pass to a tight end that gets nothing.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work for nothing.
And the one to Terrell Washington could have easily been a pick six, like the way that it kind of tipped.
They got lucky a few times.
Yeah,
you're right.
But I mean, the good news again, Cade McNamara's stat line was not great, but Iowa
11 of 19 for 62 yards.
Yeah.
No turnovers, though. Third game out of 4, no turnovers.
Yeah, no turnovers. Cade still hasn't thrown a touchdown since the Illinois State game, but he also hasn't turned it over since the Iowa State game. So that was a major issue last season with Deacon Hill and just not being able to hold on to the ball. So ball security the last 2 games have been good. I don't know. There hasn't been enough spark in the passing game, and it hasn't just been on Cade McNamara, like you said. It's been the receiving as well end of it. But you just have to you have to find some ways to kind of drive the ball down the field more and get receivers open, feel confident. And I think once you maybe start hitting 1 or 2 of them, then you feel more comfortable doing it. But there just really I just don't feel confident at all in Iowa throwing the ball down the field at this point because they just haven't shown that they're able to do it at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if they tried a deep shot today, did they? I don't remember one.
I mean, Weechin probably was the long.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
might qualify.
That was the longest, but I mean, that wasn't really much. So there's just no vertical threat at this point, which is an issue, but it needs to get better.
Yeah, I totally agree, obviously. But when you rush for 272 yards and average 6 yards a carry, it's definitely a positive step for this offense. And how about this, Tyler? Hawkeyes won the time of possession battle. We talked about that on Hawk Central this week, how dominant Minnesota has been in that category over the last 4 years, like 40 plus twice in time of possession, 35 plus the other 2 times. Today, Iowa does get that advantage, 31-43 for the Hawks to 28-17 for Minnesota. You guys may have seen me yawn. Yes, I've been up since 5 a.m. I'm enjoying the comments here from my 10K run this morning. Really, my son was the real star, though. He beat me by 4.5 minutes. So that he's a monster, 14-year-old monster. And I had my best race, and anyway. But I've been up a long time, and so I appreciate. I think it was who made the comment here. Caleb Worth. He said, "Who ran the faster 10K today, Chad or KJ Superman?" I don't think Caleb could beat me in a 10K.
Okay. Well, I think we should make it happen.
I just don't think he trains for the 10K.
Well, I think if you run the 10K, you both have to do a 40-yard dash.
Yeah, I will not do that. I will be. I mean, I'll do it, but I'll jog it.
You'll get smoked.
I'll do it. Anyway, I appreciate the comment. Even Kirk Ferentz made a comment to me. He said, "I even saw this on social media." I was like, "What? You're on social media? That's like the biggest story here."
Someone who showed him that?
I don't know.
Unless he's got a burner. Does he have a burner?
I know. I got the press conference shout out, the post press conference shout out from KF. So that made it all worth it. No.
Well, I was going to say the thing about, the way Iowa's been running the ball, and we've talked about this before, is like the opportunity to take deep shots down the field is going to be there. Like the fact that
maybe not against Ohio State, but
just the fact that opponents are going to have to put so much of their game plan and so much emphasis in trying to stop Kaleb Johnson. Like the opportunity is going to continue to be there for Cade McNamara and Caleb Brown and Reese Vanderzee and Luke Lachey, another pretty quiet day. Estrenga probably had the better day of the tight ends, but because of the running game, it's going to open up so much in the passing game. So this is not a matter of, Cade McNamara not having opportunity in front of him. It's going to be in front of him. It's just a matter of if he's able to kind of take it.
Yeah, only 2 catches from wide receivers today. So a little bit of regression since the opener in that category. There's some questions on our YouTube chat about Xavier Wampa. From what I could tell, he got benched for Cohen Entringer. It didn't come up in the post game. That we get Phil Parker on Tuesday. There's no doubt we'll talk about that on Tuesday. So these are types of questions that are good to have. We'll get to them. You can only get so much in post game. Let's go to 3-word headlines, Tyler. I know we're probably missing a bunch, but it's late. We got to read Kennington's second half Hawks. Way to go, buddy.
We might have just lost Chad here.
Pressing it over his head.
You just froze.
You lost me?
Yeah. Now.
Okay, you go. Yeah.
Oh, maybe
we're rolling.
Or did you lose me?
I don't know. It's all on Hawk. Dennis on Hawkeye Images. Caleb Heisman Johnson.
Yeah,
I like that. Jeff Collum weighs in with 3. Run the ball, stop the run, wins will accumulate. That is a pretty good formula. Minnesota abandoned the run. Historically, Minnesota has really run it at the Hawks, and they just decided to pass it today. Brosmer ended up throwing 37 balls, and they only rushed it 21 times. So, definitely good observation there. They definitely wanted to throw it, and it didn't work in the second half. What do we got here? Lenny, trust the plan. Okay.
Trust the process. That made me think of Joel Embiid. But speaking of which, he plays for the Philadelphia 76ers, and another player who plays in Philadelphia is Cooper DeJean, and
Ah,
it looked like Iowa football put out a social media post that they had him on FaceTime after in the locker room. So a little bit of
oh, really?
yeah, a little bit of sweet revenge from last season. So
Okay.
you like how I connected the dots there?
Yeah, nicely done. Adam Dahl, I assume that's Brevin's dad. I mean, I know that's his name. I assume that's the and Brevin Dahl follows him, so yeah, it's got to be. So hey, thanks for a Hawkeye parent weighing in here. Weighs in with a bunch of them. Let's go with the Jekyll and Hyde because that has been the story of the season, Tyler. And as a good friend texted me, what do you think of this? Progress today. Iowa actually played 3 good quarters and only 1 bad quarter today. Now, the one quarter was really bad, but they did have 3 good quarters as opposed to 2, right?
Yeah.
So progress? Do we call that progress?
Yeah, I think so because they also did it against a Power 5 team.
Yeah.
Like, the others came in a loss to Iowa State, and then the others were against non-Power 5 teams. So, yeah, I mean, and it was on the road. This was their first, road test. I think we probably didn't talk enough about that as the first 3 games at home. Being able to respond in that fashion on the road, I think, is encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay Hatch says, fair catch that. There were some nice fair catches today. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did.
A lot of really good ones. I like this one from Naden Fry. Heisman hope full. There's some Heisman talk here for Kaleb. Why not, man?
Well, no,
it's crazy.
Week 4, if there's if they dropped a Heisman watch list for week 4, he's got to be on it. How could you not?
If you threw out 10 names, he's probably he should be on it.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best running back in the country right now. I feel pretty confident in saying that.
Yeah. I mean, he really has been good. I know we keep talking about it, but man, it's a treat to watch. And it's just fun to watch from the press box develop. You can just see it, it's like, oh, here it comes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's did you notice they put an asterisk on the on a Hawkeye tweet? They put an asterisk by the score from last year.
Oh, did they really?
In the graphic. Yeah.
Oh, I did not see that.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Someone
How long have they been sitting on that one?
I know, a year. Scott Frederick's second half team. Well, not against Iowa State, but today it was absolutely true.
Every other game, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. In the wins there. Brandon Walker, bye is nice. It is a good time for a bye, right? I mean, it's not like they're banged up, but they this is the time to correct some stuff in the passing game. I think defense, they landed on some stuff. They went back to their identity, Tyler. It was kind of a let them have the short stuff. You didn't see him hit any. That was a big story coming in. They did not hit any deep shots, right? They hit the one up the sideline. 28 was the longest play. So,
I thought Deshaun Lee did a good job. I think I thought he played well.
Yeah,
he made 6 starts last season, and it was maybe kind of surprising that him or Nestor didn't win the job. I think from the outside looking in, at least you would have thought that those two would have been ahead of TJ Hall, but he won the job, started the first 3 games. And the secondary issues were not all on TJ Hall, in the first 3 games. He made mistakes, but it was not all on him. But obviously making a change going into this game, I thought Deshaun Lee did a good job. He did enough to earn another start.
Yeah, I agree. Matt Duhawk, just not fair. I think he's talking about it's like what Kaleb Johnson's doing. It's just not fair to opponents. And then tying in the fair catch thing, I think. Good one. I like it. I like the play on words. And then Mark Fuller, flex boat sunk. Fleck really just kind of gave up late, it seemed like. They just ran the ball and ran out the game.
Well, it just felt like it just took all the momentum. They put their foot on the gas and that was it. You could feel it. I think especially when the Schulte pick, and it just felt like
stadium emptied. At that point, the stadium really emptied. It was empty, start to empty already, but the students just flew out of here right after the Schulte pick.
But it's like crazy how quickly Iowa can do that. Like we've seen them in a blink in some of these games, like in the Illinois State game. In the second half of all their wins, they can put teams away in an instant. And what's crazy is they're not doing it by throwing the ball all around the yard. Like their deep shots are just handing the ball off to Kaleb Johnson, basically. And like
that was their Hail Mary offense.
I know,
first
like
half.
exactly. That's what I was saying. It was like their Hail Mary at the end of the half was just handing off to Kaleb Johnson, and he got a huge chunk yard. And it's like, might as well, because I mean he seems to hit one every 3 or 4 runs, so your odds are pretty good that he's gonna break one.
Yeah, exactly. We know they don't have the Hail Mary distance from the midfield. We saw that before. So, man, we got to go. I'm sorry. We 31 minutes. So we got to wrap up. I got another column to write. I got to go back to the hotel here. And Tyler, you got to get to bed, man. You got to get to bed.
I still got to finish writing here, but
yeah, we got a lot. We're grinding for you guys. All right.
The night is young still.
That's right. My story will be up at 6 a.m. You got one at 6 a.m. too, right? Is that the plan?
Yeah.
We'll have 2 fresh stories for you guys at 6 a.m. And then you can re-listen. If you missed this podcast, listen to it again. You can catch it anytime. It's up. So anyway, Tyler Tachman. That's right. Hawk Central After Dark. There we go. All right. Tyler Tachman.